Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the Chamber will continue to hear the testimony of the civil party, and after the conclusion, we will commence hearing the testimony of another civil party, TCCP 187. Mrs. Sekolbuti, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to the proceeding? Sekolbuti, Mr. President, all parties to the proceeding are present except the accused Insari, who is absent due to his health concern. Due to his limited letter of waiver, E287/1, he waives his direct presence in hearing the testimonies of certain civil parties, including TCCP, who is going to be heard again by the trial chamber, as well as TCCP 187, who will be heard next. Mr. Michael Canavas, the International Defense Counsel for Insari, is absent due to his personal commitment, and TCCP 105 is present in the courtroom. TCCP 187 is waiting to be called by the chamber. Mr. Madev Mohan, who is the lawyer for civil party and who has already been recognized by the Bar Association of Cambodia, but he has not yet been recognized by the trial chamber. President, thank you. The chamber notices the presence of the lawyer for civil parties who has not yet been recognized by the trial chamber. We will proceed with the request for the recognition first before we resumed our hearing of the testimony of this civil party, Madame Ari. Pursuant to Internal Rule 22(a), the Chamber would like to invite the national lead co-lawyer to be on his feet to make a request for the recognition of the international lawyer for civil parties before this chamber. Civil party lawyer, Mr. President, good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, everyone in and around the courtroom. On behalf of the lead co-lawyers for civil parties, I am grateful to inform the trial chamber that this morning we have a new national lawyer with his ID 583, and his letter has already been submitted to the trial chamber. Document E2/15/1. We also have an international lawyer for civil parties who has not yet recognized by the trial chamber. That is Mr. Madev Mohan. He is a Singaporean representing the civil parties in the access to Justice in Asia group. Mr. Madhav Mohan is currently a member of the Bar Association of Singapore, and he is also a lawyer in the Supreme Court of Singapore, and he has been recognized by the Bar Association of Cambodia. On 20 February 2008, and he already took an oath before the Courts of Appeals of the Kingdom of Cambodia on the 28th November 2008. For the aforementioned reasons, on behalf of the lead co-lawyer for civil parties, I request your recognition of the international lawyer for civil parties so that he can fulfill his duty representing his clients before this chamber. I am grateful, Your Honor. President, thank you. Mr. Madhav Mohan, please stand. Mr. Madhav Mohan, the trial chamber hereby recognized you as an international lawyer for civil parties for the purpose of the proceedings before this chamber in this case. Pursuant to this recognition, you have the same right and privileges as national lawyers for civil parties. You can be seated. I would like now to give the floor once again to the lawyer for civil parties to put further questions to this civil party. You may proceed. Lawyer for civil party. Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Mrs. Ari. Allow me to resume my questioning. I'd like to clarify some of the responses that you made yesterday. In particular, in relation to the situation at the Pet Thom Hospital. Yesterday, you testified before this chamber that at that Pet Thom Hospital, there were patients, wounded hospitals, who lost their legs or arms and who were treated in that hospital. Can you tell the chamber who were they? Were they civilians or were they the Tribunal soldiers or Khmer Rouge soldiers? Response. They were civilians. They were not Khmer Rouge soldiers nor Tribunal soldiers. Thank you. Question. Yesterday, you already talked about being evacuated from the city and from your house. You also said your mother was in a postnatal stage as she just delivered the baby, and you also have an unwell elder sister. My question to you is the following. When the Khmer Rouge ordered your family to leave the house, did your family or your mother request for their permission to stay until she became better? If there was such a request, was it allowed? That is, for your mother or your sister to remain behind until they became better? Or what was the circumstance? Response. My mother said she just delivered the baby and that my elder sister was injured and that we could not really go, but they still insisted that we only had to go for 3 days and that we would be allowed to return. Question. Does it mean that they did not allow them to stay behind in the house? Response: yes, they did not allow them to stay in the house as they had to cleanse the city. Thank you. Question. My next question is related to the time that you got off the boat and ready to be boarded the truck. Were there many trucks awaiting for the passengers from the boat, if you can recall? Response. I saw trucks, but I did not know how many, because whenever the truck was fully loaded, it left, and then another one came. Question. How many people were on each truck? Response. There were many. The truck was fully loaded, but I could not tell you the exact number. It was a large truck, and when it was fully loaded, it departed. Question. At that time, how many drivers altogether, and or can we say how many Khmer Rouge people on each truck? Response. There were 4 of them. There was a driver, a conductor, and 2 others staying with us on the truck. Question. The 2 people who stayed amongst yourself, were they armed? Response. They carried 2 guns. Each carried 1 gun. Question. Did you know the direction or the destination where you were transported through on the truck? Response. My mother actually asked whether we were sent back to Phnom Penh, and they said there was no need for us to know, and we would know when we arrived at the destination. Question. How long did it take for you to be on the truck before you reached the destination? Response. It took us 1 day before we arrived at Posat province. We arrived in late evening and we were received by ox carts. Question. And did you know why the ox carts were waiting for you, or whether they would transport you to somewhere else? Question. Response rather. We were taken by ox carts to various villages, and my family was sent to Chamka Tapu village. Question. How people were separated to go to various villages? Was it only your family that was sent to that village, or other families were also sent to that village? Response. There were several other families whom were also sent to that village. And we stayed in that village for 4 to 5 days. Then we were separated from other family members. The parents would be separated from us, and I was separated from my siblings. Question. Where were you allowed to stay in that village at that time? Response. They already built a long house for the families, and we were put into one room. The long house, was it made from concrete or from something else? It was a bamboo house. Everything was made out of bamboo, and the roof was thatched roof. Question. Was there a distinction between the best people and the new people in that village? Response. Yes. The best people, they lived in their ordinary houses. As for the new people, we were put into that long house. Question. Regarding food ration or distribution, how was food ration be distributed? Response. When we first arrived, we had rice, that is cooked rice for lunch, and in the evening we were given porridges, and that lasted for a few days, and later on it was all porridge. Question. Were you continue to be given porridge until the fall of the Pol Pot regime? Response. No. That what happened initially, but later on we only had watery gruel, and we were only given one ladle of watery gruel per meal. Question. Was the meal sufficient? President, the civil party, please respond. Response. The food was not sufficient because for one coconut shell ladle was not sufficient. My mother did not have enough to eat, and sometimes I shared what I had with her. Question. Your mother was at a postnatal stage. Was she being treated by the best people due to her recent baby delivery? Was care given to her by the village chief or by the unit chief in that village? Response. She was sent to work in cleaning the rice, but in fact after that she got this disease, the sickness from overwork and exhaustion. Even if she worked with the rice, the food given to her was not sufficient. Thank you. Question. Did your family members receive any suffering or mistreatment during the time? Can you describe the situation to the chamber? President, the chamber has already informed all the parties that the civil party will be given an opportunity to express the statement of suffering at the end of her testimony. And we would like to remind the parties that the facts related to the proceeding before this chamber are the first and the second phase of evacuation. So that is the commencement of the evacuation until the arrival at the destination. And that would be related to the policy of the first and second phase of evacuation. Civil party, you do not need to respond to the last question, as you will be given an opportunity to express your statement of suffering at the end of your testimony, as you were informed by the chamber at the start of your testimony. Lawyer for civil party. Thank you, Mr. President, for your reminder regarding the facts limited within the scope of the proceeding before this chamber. However, I'd like to put some questions to this civil party regarding her initial arrival at the base and the experience that she had at the time. And I'd like to rephrase my question so that it would relate to her initial arrival at the destination. Question. Allow me to ask you again regarding the food ration. Was there a distinction in the food ration between the base people and the new people? Response. In fact, the old people actually ate communally with the new people, as we all had to eat at the common dining hall. The only distinction is that they lived in their own houses while we lived communally in a long house. Question. What about the workload? Was there a difference in workload for the new people and the base people? Response. We left for work at the same time. Question. When you initially arrived in that village, was there any registration process for your family members? Response. When we arrived, my mother was asked to work with the rice immediately, and even if my elder sister was injured, she was asked to work in the kitchen. And as myself, I was ordered to cut the contriang kite trees in order to make fertilizer. And my elder in-law was asked to build the canal or the dike. Question. Regarding the living condition in that village, Did your family encounter any experience?
Response. If we were late at work, we would be criticized. As for my mother, she would work the whole day from dawn until dusk. And when she came home, she would wish to see her children, but by doing that, she was accused of, she was detained for 1 week, and she had been deprived of her food rations. Question. Do you know why your mother was imprisoned or detained? The President, we appear to have experienced some technical glitch. Court officer is now instructed to coordinate with the interpreters to see what is going on. The President, we may continue, and counsel for the civil party is now instructed to repeat the question because the civil party may have forgotten the question put to her before. Counsel Disrina. Thank you, Mr. President. I was asking this question a moment ago. Why, or did you know why your mother was detained? The President, Civil Party, could you please hold on, counsel for Mr. Ieng Sari? You may proceed. Counsel Ang Udam. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Your Honors. Good morning to everyone in and around the courtroom. I take issue with this line of questioning because it is not falling within the scope of this segment of the trials. It would be better if counsel indicated in her question the timeline so that we could be on the same page when she posted this question. However, this question appears to be more about the security center which is not part of this part of the proceedings. Counsel Tisrina, Mr. President, please allow me to respond to this. The question I put to her, to the civil party, is relevant because evacuations of the two phases would include the time when this civil party was sent to a province, and as the result of these evacuations, indeed she had been sent there. So my question is the result of the evacuations, and for that I would like to ask her what difficulties the family or her family had encountered. For me, or for us, we feel that without such evacuations, the family would never have to face these hardship. So, if it please your honors or the court, I would like the civil party to be instructed to respond to my question. The President, Counsel, please be reminded that the civil party before us today is to testify on the evacuations of the first and second phase of the evacuation. Indeed, we are not here to hear the testimony of the civil party on all the facts or results of the entire evacuation that happened across the country. For the time being, we are now discussing the segment of case file 002/01. And for that, we are now focusing on the first and the second phase of the evacuations. And during these two phases of evacuation, we focus on the implementation of the policy to evacuate the population, and also we look at the immediate arrival of the population after being evacuated. With that, we would not wish to extend the scope of the immediate evacuation to cover a period of 3 or 4 years later. By doing so, we are afraid we would infringe the main purpose of the immediate evacuation and the first and second phase of such evacuation. And please be reminded that you are confined to put question only in this ambit or scope. Counsel for Mr. Ieng Sary was correct that the question should be rephrased. And her mother was detained at a security center, and counsel made it clear that date should be precisely indicated as well to see whether the detention was far from the immediate evacuation.
Good morning, everyone. Are you all right, Mr. President? You seem rather agitated.
The President, what is your problem? I think we have dealt with the problem that is not relevant to your comment. We indeed were ruling on the objection by counsel for Mr. Ieng Sary, and the issue we were focusing now is on the matter concerning the question put by counsel for the civil parties. And indeed, as the President and as the Chamber, we would like to elaborate on the scope of the trial proceedings and how questions should be falling within the scope of this first segment of the trials. That's what we were doing.
Thank you.
We do not understand how you could be on your feet to intervene when we were now dealing with the two parties who had who had taken issue with the matter, but the chamber seemed to have been addressing their issue already, and they had no problem with that. But it is you who had no stake in this argument, then you were on your feet and made such comment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We believe that you are not qualified to judge me as the president and the trial chamber judges. Counsel for the civil party, you may continue. Counsel Tisrina, thank you, Mr. President, for reminding me. I would like to rephrase the question as follows. Madam Civil Party, you stated that your mother was detained. Was she detained immediately upon arriving at Posat? Response. She had been assigned to work for quite some time already. She was not detained immediately after arriving at Posat. Question. I may go back a little bit to the time when you were being evacuated. Indeed, you had been evacuated from the capital city to Posat province. During this time, tell the court, how was your family treated? Response. We had a lot of difficulties during that time. I could only go for the whole trip with just a piece of bread. Question. You were evacuated first from Phnom Penh and then from your hometown. Were you told about the purpose of such evacuations? Response. We were told that only the new people would be transferred from the places. My sick sister, who asked to be allowed to stay with our grandparents, were not allowed to stay with our grandparent. She had to also be evacuated because she's a new person. Question. During your evacuation, did you notice whether some people died or fell ill? Response. There were sick people, but I didn't see people die. I noted that a lot of sick people had to be evacuated, including my sister who was sick, and she had to be assisted all along during the evacuation by my family members. Question: were evacuees assisted or helped by the unit chiefs or by people who escorted them? Response: no one took any notice. Even though we or people were very sick, they had to be forced to move to the direction intended for us to go. Question: when arriving in Posat, you emphasized already that the food was not sufficient. With that, how could you live on? How could you make the end meet? For example, how could you find foods to supplement this meager ration? Response: we did not manage to find food supplementary. We were given this very little food ration, and that's all we had. I had to pick up some things to supplement the very little food we were offered. I had to eat raw prawns collected from the farms to supplement my meals. Question: you said at one point that you would have shared your food with your mother. Were you allowed to do that? Response: no, I wasn't allowed to come to my mother to share the food with her, but because I really missed her dearly, I knew that I would be killed by going and see her, but I had to do that because I had to see her. My mother, upon seeing me, said that I should never come to see her because it was so risky. And I said that I missed her, I would like to be with her. And it was, the trip to see her was at late or midnight, so no one could see that. And indeed, my purpose of seeing her is to share the food with her, because I knew that she would not have enough to eat. And I had to again collect or pick the raw prawns or shrimps to eat afresh. Question: you testify that you would every now and then go to see your mother without letting other people know. But did you know the risk, all the risk behind this? Response: indeed, if I was seen going and visiting my mother, I would have been killed or beaten to death. But I never found out. I was never found out about this. Question: had you or any of your family members been tortured? Question: Angka asked me to plant cassava tree, and the sweet potatoes, but I couldn't do that properly. I was beaten severely until I passed out. I only regained consciousness a short while later. Question: apart from being tortured personally, was such torture being inflicted on any other members of your family? The President, Civil Party, please hold on. Counsel for Mr. Ieng Sary, you may now proceed. Counsel Ang Udam, my sincere apologies, Mr. President and Your Honors. It appears to me that the same line of questioning is being posed time and again. This question is relevant to only the persecution and tortures, and these two facts are not relevant to the issue before us today. And with Mr. President's leave, I would like to ask that Council be reminded not to put the same line of questioning again. Counsel Tisrina, Mr. President and Your Honors, I may rephrase the question. When you were in Posat province, did you notice whether people died or any death? Response rather. At the beginning, I did not notice any deaths, but later on, people died of starvation. Question: what made you believe that those who died because of lack of food? How could you be certain to say that? Response: the food ration was very minimal. We were offered only thin gruel every day, and when we fell ill, we were only offered some rabbit's pellets kind of medicine, and they didn't help us at all. Question: apart from dying of starvation, did you notice that other people could have died of other causes? Response: my brother and his wife, when his wife was very hungry or thirsty of sugar juice, he had to climb the palm tree to collect the palm juice for her, but then he was spotted and executed. Arrested and executed later on for that. Question: did you see this happening? Response: yes, I did. I saw this when I was walking to work as usual. I saw my brother on the paddy dike, and he was beaten by a hoe, with a hoe. And I was I was attempting to help him, but I was stopped by some other colleagues who said that I would also be killed if I insisted I go. And upon knowing that my brother was beaten to death, I told my mother about this. My mother couldn't believe this. She was shocked and shed tears. She could not help my brother either. She was so much shocked by this sad news. Question: do you know who actually killed your brother? Response: I was told that the person who killed my brother was a unit chief, and they accused my brother of being an imperialist. Question: apart from the execution of your brother, did you notice that other villagers were also executed? Response: later on, people were killed. Not only were people killed, the whole family of mine, the whole family was executed. The whole family was killed and plunged into a pit. I was pleading, begging for the life of my mother, but they would never listen to me. They even said to me to leave the place where my whole family was being executed. They said that my turn would be on. My day would be coming very soon, that I would also be executed. And I could hear the cries. And I asked them not to kill my young brother, who was very young, and they did not really listen to me. They threw my little brother into the air to be stabbed by a bayonet, and they warned me to that I would also end up being executed, because they would not want to spare me, as if I would live, I would take revenge at a later date. I was chased. They would like to kill me the whole night. I could never spend a night near any villager, because they were so afraid that my association with them would really implicate them. Or if I was shot, then they could also be impacted by the bullets. And I also got hit in my... I got hit on my bottom by a bullet, and my auntie also got hit by a bullet. We asked them some questions why our last family member was executed. We asked them this question, but they said the people were executed, and that's it. There should not be any question at all. Later on, when my younger sibling, who was very hungry, I tried to ask the Khmer Rouge people for some rice, but I was not given anything other than a handful of salt. And when I was walking back with my younger sibling, the Khmer Rouge soldiers spotted us, and they said that we too had to be killed, because if we were spared, then we would take revenge. and I, at that time, kneeled down and begged for my life. But at the same time, I was very brave. I told them that, okay, just kill me then, because there's nothing left for me to live in this world, because you already made my life, our life, a living hell. You killed all the family members. We were stopped at gunpoint. I and my younger sibling were completely terrified. But we told ourselves that it would be better off being killed anyway. However, luckily, we were not executed. We worked our best, and we have lived a very difficult life afterwards.
Lawyer for civil party. I have one thing that I am unclear of when you responded. You said all your family members were killed. Can I ask you how many people in your family altogether? Response: there were 11 of us. Question: how did it happen? Can you describe the situation in details? President: lawyer for civil party, you have to be specific in your question as to the date for such a circumstance. And of course, you are reminded once again that the civil party will be given a chance to make a statement of suffering. The suffering under the Democratic Cambodia regime. However, parties are limited to put their questions within the scope of the facts relevant to the time of the first and second phase of evacuation. Otherwise, the responses would not be considered as part of the current scope of the proceeding. Thank you, Mr. President. I have about 2 more questions to put to this civil party related to this event. Question: who actually killed your family members, if you can recall? Response: it was the Khmer Rouge clique. I witnessed the killing with my own eyes. It was full moon, and they were all armed, and they fired upon my family members. Question: did you know the reason for the killing of your family? Response: we were evacuated from the house, and then we were asked to sleep in the rice field. I did not know exactly the reason behind the killing, because they came at night time to kill my mother, my aunt, and my siblings, and meant all the rest of my family members. I have no further question for you, Madam Civil Party, and thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to put a question to this civil party. And I'd like now to cede the floor to the prosecution. President, the prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, we have no questions. We have no questions. Thank you.
President, thank you. The floor is now given to Nuon Chia's defense to put question to this civil party. You may proceed. Sanaron. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors and everyone. I only have one question for this civil party. In the document D22/3455, in Khmer EAN 0056, in the Khmer EAN is 00565899, English 00660730, French 00861206. You stated that I was sent to pull seedlings and transplanted seedlings and to deliver the seedlings for transplantation. That was in early 1978, and I did the work until late 1978. And at that time, the Vietnamese soldiers made their advance almost near Con Dien district. The Khmer Rouge people evacuated us. That meant the group from Svay Rieng, Phnom Penh, and myself to go up the mountain. One night, my family traveled with people from Svay Rieng, and we slept together that night. It was quiet during the night, and the Khmer Rouge group opening fire on my family. My mother and 5 of my siblings died, and my youngest brother, who was 2 years old back then, was thrown into the air and pierced with the bayonet. He convulsed and died. As for myself, I was shot at, but the bullet didn't fire through. For that reason, I survived. My question is that whether you can recall that statement that you made in that document that I just quoted. Response: yes, I can recall that. I did make that statement, but it was not in details. Actually, I spoke a little bit more than that. Counsel, my question is whether you can recall the statement, your statement that I quoted. Response: yes, I can recall it. Counsel, I have the following question for you. In late 1978, at that time, the Vietnamese soldiers advanced toward Con Dien district. Where was Con Dien district located? Response: I did not know where it was because I was pretty young. I heard of the name through other older people. Question: can you tell us Con Dien district is located in which province? Was it in Prey Veng? Response: no, it was not in Prey Veng. It was somewhere in Po Sat. Thank you. You have been questioned by the lawyer for civil parties as to the reason why your family members were killed, and you said that you did not know the exact reason for the killing. My question is the following. You said that that night was full moon and that the shooters were the Khmer Rouge. Can you please confirm before this chamber as the shooters were Khmer Rouge? Because you stated that by late 1978 the Vietnamese troops advanced toward Con Dien district. Were they Khmer Rouge or not? I mean the killers or the shooters. Response. They were Khmer Rouge because they knew my mother's name very well. The Cambodian troops almost arrived in Con Dien district, but by then people were actually sent to the forest already. Question. I'd like you to clarify that who were the shooters and whether other family members were also fired upon? Response. It was only my family, and as for the rest, they were all those people from Svay Rieng province. And when we slept there were only my family members, my mother, my siblings, and my aunt. Question. Why the Khmer Rouge at the time ordered your family to move and to rest in the rice field? Because you said that there were other family members from Svay Rieng who were also went with you but were not ordered to go to the rice field, that is in the open rice field. Response. All the people were ordered to leave, including the old people and the best people. We were all asked to live and rest in the rice field. None was in the village. Question. I already asked you that whether only your family was killed. Didn't you ever wonder why only your family members were killed and not other people? Response. They accused my mother of resting together with the people from Svay Rieng. For that reason, she was killed, as well as my family members were also killed. The Svay Rieng people had already been killed before my family members were killed. Question. I'd like you to recall of what you already stated before this chamber. You said that it was the Khmer Rouge that killed your family members and that other people were not killed then. That was your statement. Now I'd like you to confirm whether was it only your family that was killed, or were also other family members who were ordered to go down from the mountain were also killed? Response. My family members were killed first, and other family members were not yet killed. At that time, only my family members were killed, as well as those family members from Svay Rieng province. Question. So does it mean that other people were also killed and not just only your family members? Is that correct? Response. Yes. Question. Were many people from Svay Rieng killed? Response. There were many of them. They were tied up and walked in lines. They were young men and women, and I witnessed that with my own eyes, although I was pretty young back then. Question. How old were you back then? Response: I was more than 10 years old. Questions: it means you were quite mature if you were more than 10 years old. When the Khmer Rouge soldiers forced you to go down the mountain, did you hear the voice of the people ordering you to go down the mountain? Were they the voice or the sound of the Cambodian people, or was it kind of a foreign or with an accent or something? Response: the voice was a Khmer voice ordering us to go down to the mountain, although I did not know whose voice it was. A lot of people went down and I walked along. Thank you. I have another question for you. You said that they also shot at you, but the bullets did not fire, and for that reason you survived. Can you recall when your family members were shot and killed, but that you survived? Can you try to recall of actually what happened and why you survived and not your family members? Response: I did not know why. Actually, I covered my family members. I rather died rather than allow my mother to be shot and killed. But I did not know why the bullets missed me. Question: in another document that you made with the victims unit, that is document D22/3455A, EN in Khmer 00586120 and English 00858556, and it does not exist in the French language. My question is for the Khmer version. What you stated in that document is a little bit different from you stated in the previous document. You stated that at that time I lied down embracing my mother and did not realize that she already died. I called my mother and my family members were shot and killed at around 10 p.m. They shot at me, but the bullets did not fire. And at another point you stated that I suffered a lot and I was really very angry, and they were afraid that I would take revenge against them. And next morning at 9 a.m. they came to shoot me again, but the bullets did not fire, and I at that time covered myself with a scarf. Your statement that they were afraid that you would revenge against them in the morning, can you tell us why did you think so? Did you have any weapon? And for that reason that they were afraid that you would take revenge against them? Can you tell us on this point? Response: I did not know why. They tried to shoot me once or twice, but they failed. I did not have any weapons to take revenge against them. I just tried to survive. Question: do you have no means to take revenge against those people who were soldiers and who were armed? I'd like to know the reason, or can you tell us the reason why you think that they were afraid that you would take a revenge against them? Response: that's what they said. They said that there was no need to spare my life, that I should be killed to complete the killing of the whole family, and that I should be killed, or my youngest brother should also be killed. But up to today, I have not taken any revenge against anybody. Thank you once again, Madam Civil Party. Now I'd like to go back a little bit. When your families and those people from Swai Rieng were charged to go down the mountain, and when your family members were shot at, where were you, or where were you standing in comparison to the position of your family members? Response: at that time we just left the village for the rice field. And that was the day that they chased us away to go from the village to the rice field during the daytime. And at night time, they killed us. Question: when your family members were shot at, it means your parents, your 5 siblings, yourself, where were you standing amongst your family members, and why did the bullets miss you? Response: I was resting together with my mother and with other siblings. We were sleeping on the ground in the open in a rice field with my parents and my siblings. Question: so when you were shot at, all of you were sleeping in the rice field, is that correct? Response: yes, we were sleeping in the rice field. Question: was only your family sleeping in the rice field, or were those people from Swai Rieng also sleeping in the rice field nearby? Response: they were sleeping nearby us, including those people from Swai Rieng and the base people. We were about 10 meters apart from one another. President: Counsel, your question is far from the facts, limited within the scope of this proceeding. You are referring to the period in late 1978. So please try to rephrase or reframe your question for the facts, limited within the scope of this proceeding. That is, in terms of the first and the second evacuation and the initial arrival at the destination. Your question may be related to another portion of the case, which is subject of the later proceeding. And this is also in light of the previous testimony by the civil party, Ms. Saran, who concluded that yesterday that when he fled to Thailand, he was shot at the neck, and later on he migrated to France. That kind of information or fact was not part of this scope of the proceeding. That is within the scope of the facts in case 002/01. Council, the purpose of my question to this civil party is that whether her testimony now, comparing to her statement she made before the victims unit, is consistent or not. President, of course I understand your intention. For that reason, we allowed you to put questions to her up to this point. And sometimes I understand the nature of your questions as well, the yes or no question. But please be advised once again to refrain your question to the facts limited within case 002/01. And that is the instruction from the President of this trial chamber so that I can manage this proceeding effectively and in a timely manner. Council, thank you, Mr. President, for your advice and instruction. I do not have any further question for this civil party. Thank you, Madam Civil Party, and thank you, Mr. President. President, thank you. Now the International Council for Anunchi, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good morning, everyone. And good morning to you, Madam Civil Party. I do not have very many more questions, maybe 5 or 6. I'll try and go as quickly as I can. First of all, let me just say that I've listened to everything you've said on the stand, and I'm quite sorry to hear about the loss of your family. I will ask you questions related to events that may or may not have taken place prior to April 1975. So if I could just first ask you, so that we can orient ourselves in time, I understand that you were not born in Phnom Penh. When did you first move to the city of Phnom Penh?
I cannot recall it. I did not know when my mother moved to the city. When I grew up, I was in Phnom Penh.
And after growing up in Phnom Penh, was there at any point in time prior to the evacuation that you've described, did you leave Phnom Penh? Or did you live in Phnom Penh from the time you grew up until you left in April 1975?
I was living in kilometer number 6 village.
Do you recall when that was?
No, I cannot recall it. I simply knew that when I grew up, I lived in kilometer number 6 village, and I did not know when my parents moved to live in that village.
Is it fair to say that you spent multiple years in the city of Phnom Penh prior to April 1975?
Yes, you can ask me the question and then I will respond.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. Let me turn now to some specific questions. Yesterday, we heard some testimony from another civil party regarding the price of food, in particular rice, in the city of Phnom Penh. And that individual described a sharp increase in the price of rice in the years leading up to April 1975. Could you please tell us, based on your own experience, based on your own personal experience, what was the price of rice in the years leading up to April 1975? Was it affordable for most people?
Response. Yes, it was. It was affordable for most people.
And did it gradually become more and more expensive, as we were told yesterday?
Response. I don't know, but what I know is that my mother bought the rice that was rather affordable.
Very well, thank you very much for that. What about the number of people living in the city of Phnom Penh? Again, we heard yesterday that the city of Phnom Penh, the population of the city, increased greatly in the years prior to April 1975, and the individual who gave testimony yesterday described that, in his estimation, as a tripling of the population. What about your experience in Phnom Penh in the years prior to 1975, April 1975? Did you notice an increase in the population of the city?
Response. I'm afraid I was too young to understand much about the population increase. I was rather young, and I don't know about this.
Thank you for that, Madam Civil Party. One more question. Do you remember, given your age, and possibly you don't, so please tell me if you don't, do you have any recollection of bombs falling on Phnom Penh prior to 1973? Or to remember?
Response. I don't remember this.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I said that was my last question. I have one last question for you. You mentioned yesterday an episode at a big hospital. I believe you called it the big hospital in Phnom Penh, where your sister, I believe you said, went to receive certain care. And you told us that in order for her to receive that care, she was required, or your family was required, to pay a sum of money in advance to receiving the care. Is that correct? Is that what you told us?
Response. Yes, it is correct, because my mother told me that if we had money to pay to bribe the doctors, then my sister would be quickly offered the service, and that she would be quickly treated.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. I just heard you say, at least this is the way it came through in the English translation, that the money was required to bribe the doctors. So my next question to you would be, was that, or do you know, in your own experience, do you have any knowledge whether or not that was one of the policies of the Lon Nol government to require the population of Phnom Penh to bribe doctors in order to receive medical care? If you don't know, that's perfectly fine.
Response. I don't know, I only know that my mother had to buy some good medicine to make sure that my sister got recovered quickly. That's all I know.
Very well. Thank you very much, Madam Civil Party. I appreciate your answering my questions, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
The President, next we would like to cede the floor to counsels for the Ingsari, for Mr. Ingsari, rather. Counsel Angodam, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Your Honors, and very good morning again to everyone in and around the courtroom. Good morning to you, Madam Auri. I am Angodam, representing Mr. Ingsari, along with my co-colleague. I have only two small questions. The first question is only for seeking clarification. I noted that in your application as a civil party and the account in your family book, the information is rather inconsistent. In your family book document D22/3455, you said that of course, the book is dated 30th of March 1999. As in the relationship in the book, you indicated that you're a wife. But in the application form, the victim application form dated on the 16th of August 2009, you state that you're single. Can you please shed the light on this inconsistency of the account in your family book and what appears on your application form to join as a civil party? Response: I don't know what happened to that. I just got married after the Khmer Rouge regime. I got married not during the Khmer Rouge. Question: in the family book, it reads that you're a wife of Mr. Hun Mao. However, in your form, the form to join as a civil party, you say you're single. So which one is the most reliable source of information? So which one is correct or which one is wrong? Just let us know. The President, civil party, you are not expected to respond to this question since you are here before us. You already made it clear about your marital status, and you also will put some questions at the very beginning about your marital status, and you have made it clear twice. And the chamber would not consider that this piece of document is a piece of evidence, strong evidence before the chamber. Counsel Angodam, we thank you, Mr. President. I was asking the question because I was checking to see whether there is any error in the record of the civil party. My last question to you, Madam Civil Party, you talked about the base people and the new people. Can you please explain to the chamber how you understood the terms to be different? Response: I don't know. Because when I was there, I was regarded as the new base people, and the people at the base or the local area were regarded as the old base people. Council Angadam. With that, I thank you very much. Madam Auri, I have no further question. On behalf of Mr. Ieng Seri, we are very grateful indeed to your testimonies, indeed your efforts to find the truth, and I wish you safe travels. The President, thank you, Council. Next, we proceed to Council for Mr. Kiew Sampon to put questions to Madam Civil Party if you would wish to do so.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. We have no questions for the Civil Party. Thank you.
The President, thank you, Councils. Thank you, Madam Auri. Your testimony sessions now come to a conclusion. You are now excused. You will be let out of this courtroom momentarily. Rather, Madam Auri, indeed, we should not forget that you have the opportunity to voice or to express the statement of your suffering. You will be given this opportunity to do so now, if you wish. Madam Auri, what I wish to say is that after leaving Phnom Penh, I have lost everything, including my house, property, and along the road I was not given enough food, and I had lived a very difficult life until I reached my hometown. When I got there, I thought that I would be in peace. I would reunite with my parents and grandparents. Unfortunately, I was time and again transferred until I reached Bosat province. There I was tortured because I was young, I could not work properly, I could not really give the best at work, and I was beaten with a hoe, and when I was carrying dirt, they were beaten. I was beaten by a pole that I used to carry the dirt. I was accused of being an imperialist, that I could not work properly carrying the dirt or the soil, and I was too young, and the load was too heavy. I couldn't do that. Without being able to do that, I was accused of being the imperialist, and I was severely injured, and the impact was huge that I still live with the scar and these difficulties. I have lost all my last member of the family. I am now a complete orphan. I live a very lonely life, very desperate for food. I had to pick up foods left over from others to make my meals, and I had to ask people for food. Indeed, I asked for food to be offered to my younger sibling who was very hungry. Our legs become swollen, and I got injured, and I had difficulty walking. I still live with this very bad trauma all along. And recently we met. I just found my sister. She survives the ordeal, but she got injured, and the injury makes it impossible for her to live a normal life. and I feel that my life is very miserable. We have lived a very difficult life because of the regime, and for that I would like to humbly ask Mr. President and Your Honors to help find justice for me. The President, once again we would like to thank you very much, Madam Auri. Your testimony session now comes to complete conclusion, and you are indeed excused. Your testimony will be contributing to the ascertaining of the truth before the chamber. You may be ushered by the court officer momentarily, and we wish you all the very best. Court officer is now instructed to assist Madam Auri and work in collaboration with the vessel unit to make sure that Madam Auri is safely returned home. You may leave now. The President continues. Next, we would like to cede the floor to parties to the proceedings who would like to say a few words concerning the statement of suffering by the civil party. While it appears to the chamber that there is no such comment, the chamber would like to adjourn momentarily, and the next session will be resumed by 11 o'clock. When we resume, we will be hearing another civil party, TCCP 187. The court is adjourned.